Okay, so this is a paper I wrote, maybe 3 years ago. And we were trying to look at the ecosystem for measuring. And I typically don't talk about accounting and auditing. I talk about business measurement and assurance. And you heard me talk about that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the data ecosystem, technology that are rising, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So first thing is, let's look at this definition. The data ecosystem is a collection, infrastructure, analytics, and application used to capture and analyze data. The term ecosystem used rather than environment because we, like real ecosystem, data ecosystem tend to evolve over time. So notice this here. Data sources, exogenous and endogenous. Endogenous, we kind of know what it is. Is the SAPs or the ERPs that the company has, is the database of the company. We haven't covered them very much, but typically it's a relational database and many applications around it. And what I talk about the database and the applications is there is human resources, there is costing, there is logistics, there is et cetera, and there is a separate thing, which is the financial reporting system according to the rules of the FASB or the International Accounting Standards Committee. And that's not very much used for anything running the business, except to look at its impact on the reporting and on bonuses and et cetera. So businesses are run out of the other application. Now, we talked a little bit about big data just in the beginning of the slide set. And then I showed you visual data, textual data, voice data, and then these IoT type of things. And these were not in the company and progressively being used by companies. Now, there is a word here that I want to call your attention to. The next cube here, the next rectangle talks about taxonomization. What is a taxonomization? Maybe use the word classification. But typically, you heard that we already mentioned XBRL. And XBRL has a taxonomy. What is a taxonomy? It's basically a list of categories of things. So they have cash, they have receivables, they have payables, but they have cash and receivables, and they have other categories that are mixed categories. But basically, when you present your financial report to the world in the EDGAR system, which is the SEC reporting system, now you are required also to present it in XBRL, extensible business reporting language. And that basically has a list of accounts, and you have to put a value for the accounts that are relevant. And the US allows a thing called extension taxonomies that if you can't classify them, put it as extension. Several countries in Europe and around the world formalize a taxonomy and don't allow you to create extra categories. The US does, and I don't think that's very good. Okay, now what do you do with this taxonomization? Extract the data, put it into a taxonomy, typically traditional accounting data, put it in a taxonomy, and then use it for inferences. You use it for monitoring what's happening with the firm, and you use it for taking actions. And then you lose an analytics for this purpose, and this is a product of the last 2 decades. And here I have actually the usage of external data. And external data users and relevant external data. Credit union personalized marketing offers for members based on customer profile developed with the aid of external data. Relevant data, traditional customer demographic, age, and remember we had customer demographic in that graphic that I showed you about big data. Social media and geolocation. Geolocation is GPS or what was Bell Lab. So all of these have external data that's relevant. And this data is not yet really regulated and accepted. Now, I don't know if you know this word deterministic and stochastic. Deterministic is when there is basically a determined value. Stochastic when it's probabilistic. Okay, and then the main key here is employee ID. And then you can link it to like the payroll of the employee actions in process mining. And then there are things like sentiment analysis that are probabilistic. And you can maybe link that to use that. And so at the end, you finish up with kind of a blend of operational, legal, and external data. Now, we talked about robotic process automation, and I mentioned IPA, intelligent process automation. And what we are talking here is how these new technologies will integrate on the data ecosystem. So IPA combines robotic process automation and AI. It can automate tasks that have unstructured data, like inference-based processes, etc. And you learned a little bit about machine learning, and you are going to learn more about blockchain. Now, first, what is blockchain? Just to give you a recap of what we already covered, blockchain is another way to store data. But the big difference is that it's external to the company and has many copies, and there is some degree of trust associated with it. And, you know, blockchain gives you the opportunity to have a client and the company or a supplier share data on an independent basis. But companies are totally obsessed of keeping the data themselves. Okay, and so this is actually a mix of the data. Here is your process automation. This is external data. This is internal data. And this is what's going to be done. Okay, I want to mention this concept of intelligent agents. And intelligent agents, and this is the project that we are, as we working with one of the big firms, KPMG in this case, and basically the idea whereby you can identify certain functionalities, like, for example, finding a certain type of fraud, finding inefficiency. For example, in this particular project, we are looking at a very, very large contracting system for a state. And basically there are many, many steps in the contracting system. And you can do something very simple, like calculate the average time being taken, either by a system, by a process, or by an employee. and call your attention if there is an anomaly, maybe even fix it. Reroute some work that is to an over busy employee, or call the attention to the auditors of variances and etc. So this is actually what we are talking today about, changing how the processes work. So why did I show this? I teach this class on exogenous variables for PhD students. And basically what I say in that class is that these exogenous variables are going to be probably the most important change in business measurement and reporting. We actually wrote a paper arguing that companies should collect some of the public data about themselves and make it available to investors. And I think that's going to happen sometime.